Yeah, so we want to start using our body like a tool or an implement, rather than considering it a sacred space full of our own thoughts and feelings. We're just a tool. So I'm using the body to drive something down to the ground. I'm a pile driver. I'm banging my sacrum down using my legs. My legs are gripping, my feet are gripping the ground. So I'm like a hammer. I'm using my body like a hammer to drive like a stake down into the ground between my legs. So we want the body to be a site not of thoughts and feelings, but of energy. Yeah. So we need to get energy flowing through it vigorously. And the best way to do that is to make it a tool. And the same way when you use a tool, a saw or a hammer, your energy just extends to be part of the tool that's used. It's just the tool just becomes an extension of you, and your energy flows through it into the job that's being done. So the same thing here. My body's just full of energy, and it's just banging up and down. So as you're banging, you're just trying to relax, particularly the sacroiliacs. So all across here, the buttocks, all around the sacrum, the hip joints, obviously. And each bounce is swelling the legs apart. So gradually more and more intention and energy comes into the head of your hammer, which is your sacrum. Yeah. So imagine when you first pick up the hammer, your mind is in your hands because you're picking up the handle. But as soon as you start using the hammer, you forget the handle, and your mind is just on the head of the hammer. So the same thing here. So we forget the legs, we forget the ground, and we're just now banging with this point up and down. So we'll just do 100. Yeah, I'll count them out in tens. So 100 pairs. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 20. 40. 60. 80. And 100. So now just standing. Okay, so now tapping the belly. So start off light, but end up really vigorous. So if you've just eaten, you can vomit. And just feel it now gripping and stinging a little bit. Yeah. So normally we feel the belly as something that expands. Yeah? So something that bloats. And so we want to, in Tai Chi, feel it as something that's contracting, something that's yielding into itself. So it's like there's something in me that's always withdrawing. I'm withdrawing my ego in order to involve my energy, basically. And that just requires me to tighten into here a little bit. Okay. And now let's just try pulling into the belly. So again, start off light. So just pinpoint your dantian, and remember it's like 2 or 3 fingers beneath the depth of the navel. And now just pull it in and then squeeze it out. And as you slowly start getting into it, just lose the eyes. So lose the screen. So don't look at the screen. Just I'll say something if we stop, do something else. So here your eyes are pulling inwards. And then here when your eyes push out, the eyes aren't pushing out to see, but just to express your intensity. So here pulling in, and then here pushing out. And just let your head move. The head should be the part of your body that's moving the most, because it's the furthest away from the dantian. So your dantian is working, but it's not really moving. It's doing all the work, but the movement is expressed in the head and the spine. So here you're sitting like that, and just let the head wave around. And then just a little bit of an exercise, so just pulling in little fingers and then round to here. Yeah, so we're just containing it a bit more, containing it in the shape. Yeah. So when we express the energy and straighten up, we're actually joining the hands together. So we're just containing the energy a bit more really. So it's in and out, that's it. So as you pull in, feel the little fingers working. So it's like your little fingers are most active here. And then as you straighten up, it's your thumb and your forefinger. So when you yield, it tends to be those weak parts of the body, your peripherals, your vestiges that become awake. And when you're attacking, it's just the more dominant parts which we're used to. So when we yield, we have to really work. So this is little fingers, little toes. And then this is the big fingers, big toes. So here, fanning out, this is my energy from the back. And then this is my front intention. It's here, something is fanning out of my back on my angel's wings. And then I just bring it all back to some central stillness. So pulling in the belly. So feel as you pull the belly, it's like you're squeezing the contents of the belly into the kidney areas. So your kidneys fill as your belly squeezes tight. So it's like you have like wings coming out of here as well that shroud the legs. It's something they work on a lot in Aikido. So you've got the angel's wings here that come out of your shoulders there, so they're connected to your heart. And then you've got wings from either side of your sacrum, just above the kidney area, and they belong to your dantian. So here and down. So whenever we do an exercise like this, especially one that we've done lots of times before, we just try to keep on going until we get somewhere that's a little bit different that we've never been before with it. Yeah, so you just want to feel something that's a little bit novel, that just makes the session worthwhile. You just know that if you hadn't done the practice, you would never have discovered that. You would never have encountered that. So practice isn't just going through motions. It's not fitness training. We're not training fitness. We're not going for a run and then coming back and having a shower and having our breakfast. We're wanting to use our energy to break through to areas we've never gone before. So we're getting stronger in order to venture into different areas. So you never feel strong, because the new areas you go into always require the maximum energy that you have. So you always feel a little bit incapable, a little bit not up to the job. And that's exactly how it should be. So we're just like pressing the boundaries of the unknown. From Gura. And a couple more. So just down, pulling the belly in, squeezing out of the kidneys, catching that energy with your little fingers, and then pulling it all together using the muscles in the lower back to straighten up. And then, so the phase we're always interested in is the yielding phase, this phase. And then the other phase just is something we have to go through to get back into yielding. Okay, now let's just stand again. Okay, now what's difficult, and we don't realize how difficult it is getting into the body. Because we assume that just because we have a body, we're in it. But we're not really. We're normally in the space that we're actually looking at. Yeah. So normally your manipulative space, the space that you could have some manipulative influence over. So if you're cooking the meal or eating the food, then it's all here. It's not actually inside your body. So to get inside your body, this is why we bring the bum in. Yeah? So by bringing the bum in or the belly forwards, you get more inside your own body. Now we want to feel, this is something I've discovered recently. So normally when we talk in terms of sink and relax, that's normally interpreted in terms of, okay, just be still, quieten down, and just bend the legs and just allow gravity to pull you down. Now what I've realized is that it's not as simple as that. You actually have to ally your intending mind with gravity. It's not enough just to let gravity do it. You have to make a real effort as well. So it's not just, I have to feel gravity coming through me. That's the first stage, which isn't so easy. And then I have to really will myself to join that and drive down into my legs. Yeah. So it's a bit like that 2-year-old toddler who's having a tantrum and he doesn't want to be picked up. Imagine his mind just willing himself down. Oh, you're not going to get me off the ground. So this is the same mind that we need when we sink. It's a very determined and awkward mind. It's like really awkward. Nothing's going to pluck you off the ground. So you have to just ally that mind. And of course, then there's no room then for a noisy mind, because a noisy mind just stops that intending. So we want to quieten the mind down. So the mind is not a site of thoughts and feelings, but a site of intent. So you're intending. And what that just means is you're driving, you have direction. Yeah? You have a strong direction. That's what intent is. Intent is like a vector. Yeah? It's got direction. Yeah? And so now your intent is downwards through your own body. And this is exactly what meditators do, what they should do. Especially in Zen, you see those Japanese Zen masters, they're like monsters sitting there, they're like they're made out of stone. And their mind is just going down through them. So difficulty is always quiet in the mind. So if you can find something to do with the mind that you have to be really determined for, then there's no room then for noise. So if you just try and quieten the mind, it's almost impossible. But if you do something else with the mind, then it will naturally become quiet because all of its energy is taken up in doing the thing that you're doing. So you're just driving down. Now this is obviously the opposite of what we normally do. Because normally when we're standing, especially if you to get like a group of beginners to get them standing like this, then their mind would be going the other way, because they would be trying to relieve the pain in their legs. Yeah? And so naturally we have a mind that is busy, bubbly, and always wanting to come out into the world. So in Tai Chi, the first stage, or any meditation, is just reversing all of that, making the mind quiet and letting all those bubbles disperse and just getting it to just stream down through this body. So now let's just try. Okay. So just making a circuit. So here, just feel your hands with your intention. And then here, this is like evaporation. This is like the rain that's come down, evaporating back up to the clouds. And now the cloud is raining, so it's raining. So one of my teacher's beautiful sayings was, just imagine it's raining all the time. Yeah. So there's this constant downward energy. And it's not enough just to allow it to take place. You have to join forces with it. So this is the thing. So I have to really join with that downward. The Chinese put it beautifully. They say there is the earth and there is the sky. And these two things don't meet because there's the world between them. And our job as human beings is to bring the ground up into our body and bring the sky down into our body so that earth and sky can finally communicate. Yeah? So my body becomes the site of communication between the earth and the heavens. So here I'm drawing something down. Yeah? And as I drive that down into the ground, the up is just obvious. Yeah? This is the thing about joining your intent with gravity. It's like it just squeezes out any space. And then you just feel the ground coming up into you because it's got nowhere else to go. So the more I squeeze down, it's like a spring. The more you press down on the spring, the more the spring presses up. So there's this surge up my body from my intention intending downwards. And again, just get it all happening from here. So everything we do is the same. It's all this exercise that we were doing before, but just with different arm shapes. So here, this is the belly, pulling everything down. And now your lower back is starting to extend, pulling, extending, flexing. And just notice how as soon as you become engrossed in what you're doing, you tend to lose that intending downwards. You tend to lose your sinking. So we're always having to return to the sinking. To remind ourselves to actually keep that connection with the ground. So I'm pulling. So if we were all in a class together in the same room, then what I get, so one person will be doing the exercise we're doing, but there'll be another person behind them really pressing down on their shoulders and down through their body. So they're constantly reminded of the flow of gravity through their own body. They can't lose it. This is what we want. So you want to sink so low, make yourself so heavy that your legs are so much in pain you cannot forget. Yeah. This is the value of suffering. It keeps your mind on the job. Without it, you just become useless. Down. Okay, now here again. Okay, and now let's just bang this down a few more times. And again, like a hammer, like we did before, so you're just banging it down. Now the test of just how, what we're after is that sort of whippy energy, the energy that comes from a spring. It springs back up, there's this spring, and you can tell it's there because it's an easy matter to just start jumping on the spot. Yeah? So tight here, and you just spring up. Yeah? You just spring off the ground, and then just back. And just feel, there's a natural gathering here when you know you have to bounce. Yeah? You naturally tighten in here. You naturally tend to get it right when you're confronted by difficulty. This is why I love that quote, the only real difficulty nowadays is that there's no real difficulty. Yeah? So we have to create difficulty for ourselves, knowing that it's the only way to actually force our spirit up. Yeah? So let's try again. So just you want to use the bounce. Yeah? So I'm pushing this down. Good. Okay. And now let's just squat down. So and again, just feel it from here. So when we squat down, so we try to get everything that we do to come from here. So it's all I'm going to do is just squat down like this. But I want it to happen because I pulled in here. So I start this pulling. I start my downshift. It's like I'm going to do this exercise. So I pull my downshift in, and then I just squat down with it. So my belly is just pulled in now. So everything that you do, you want it to happen because you either pulled in your belly or you straightened your lower back. And just move around with it. We're just trying to stretch the joints, the sacroiliacs, the hip joints, but also just feel that sort of brooding intensity when you're actually in your dantian. So use it as a position to face your death. Imagine you're going to go into battle and you've got a few moments left to pull yourself together, knowing you'll probably never come back alive. And you're just gathering yourself so that you can operate with maximum intensity. So the dantian is getting tighter and tighter, more and more compact. And so your internal energy is being squeezed into your back and is beginning to emanate from your spine into the space above and behind you. Okay, now let's come up. Okay, so now we'll just work on the heels and the toes a little bit. So let's try this exercise again, but just with a smaller stance, and just try and feel the heels and the toes. So when you pull in, when you pull in, your hands tend to do this, yeah? Or the hands tend to do this. So you want to feel as though your feet are doing the same thing. So when you extend like this, and you're tightening these muscles, your toes and your fingers are trying to go forwards, yeah, and straighten. So the elbows tend to come in, the knees tend to come in, and the fingers and toes extend. So everything in you is extending. Your spine is extending, your fingers, your arms, your legs. Yeah? And then as you start tightening here, all of that reverses. So as you tighten into the belly, all of these straight extending lines start to curve. They start to curl up. So let's just feel that. So first we extend everything, particularly the toes. So just feel the toes and then just tighten. Just start tightening and pulling in. So your toes are trying to grip the ground like this. Your hands are making fists. Your face is scrunching up. Your belly is pulling in. And your knees are coming apart and your elbows are out. And then when you extend, you go back into the heel and just drive the heel down into the ground. The fingers extend forwards, toes extend forwards. And then when you reverse it, and it all starts here, as soon as your belly starts contracting, so, and now you're curling up into like a ball. But just try and feel the toes. So you tend to come onto the front of the foot. So you can even come off the heel. But then when you straighten up, you go back into the heel. So your root envisioned, visualized as a root, actually goes down through the heel. And then when you draw the ground up into you, you actually use the toes. So here, you're sucking at the ground with your toes. You're trying to clutch and you're pulling it all up. And then here you're driving the heels down. And then again, yeah. And just come off the heel. So let yourself just be on your toes and just feel how that lends the body like a vibrancy. Yeah, so when you're in the heel, you have that solid stability. Yeah? So like the stillness of stone. And then when you come onto the toes and bring the heels off the ground, you've got this very light tremble that floods the body. And then here, back into the heels, driving the heels down. And then coming off the heels. And again, so our main line in Tai Chi is up and down, through the heels, out the top of the head. And then when we yield, when we pull the belly in and come onto the front of the foot, we have all these circles that wrap around the spine, like these ribs, yeah? And then out, and then pull, and yeah. So we just need to get down into those legs, and then, and all the time telling yourself, it has to come from here. My Dan Qian pulls in, so my coming onto the front of the foot, my going down, is because I'm pulling the Dan Qian in. And then this is me extending. And again, pulling. Ooh. Out. Pulling. So just be careful with it, yeah? It's quite easy to hurt the knees down. This is all from you pulling the belly in, and then this is you extending from the back. So one more. Great. Now let's just bounce a few more times. So just bring it all back to here and here. So it doesn't matter how your hands are. Yeah? You could have the chin there, you need to be up like this, prayer posture. Yeah, you don't have, you could, if you're comfortable sitting cross-legged, then that's probably ideal, but okay, so now, so when we're, that thing that we were doing before of actually intending ourselves downwards through the body, it's much easier to do it when you're sitting because of course your legs don't have to support you. We don't mind trying to break the legs of the chair, but we object to breaking our own legs. So let's just sit and just feel sinking. So we have to reconsider sinking as not simply relaxing and letting gravity do its thing, but actually joining forces with gravity. So feel yourself being pulled down, feel your weight distributing over the seat of the chair, feel your weight going down the legs of the chair, feel the ground underneath supporting the chair. Yeah. So the chair is just an extension of your spine. And now just start intending yourself down. So just start, it's like the mind just becomes heavy, like bloody minded. It's like, you just grind down into the chair, like you're trying to break the chair, break the legs of the chair with your weight. So your shoulders drop because you're forcing them down. And you maybe scrunch up a little bit because you're forcing yourself down into the chair. Yeah. So we're just bringing in a little bit of force in order to help the mind focus. Because without it, the mind will just remain lazy and unfocused all your life. Yeah? So here I'm just, something in me is just driving down through. Now the best way to practice it would be to have a friend there who is just standing behind you and just pressing down on your shoulders. They don't have to press very hard. It could almost just be the weight of their arms that they're just allowing there. Because then you would have an extra feeling, you know, something that isn't you, and it would really bring your mind in on that energy that's coming down. So just imagine that. Yeah. So if you don't have a proper hand, then you just imagine it's there. So just imagine someone is behind you. So it's not just the pressure of their hand, it's the pressure of their presence. Yeah? If someone was behind you, you just feel it, you'd feel it like in the back of your neck, like fuck off, you know, you just don't want that presence there, but they're there, and they're driving down through your body, and your body has to just be strong enough to take this pressure, yeah? And they're pushing stronger and stronger. And then maybe at one point they get up and stand on your shoulders, just so, and so you just feel yourself just being crushed down through the chair. And then as that is happening, just feel the chair coming up into you. Yeah? So basically, we're just using the mind to try and squeeze out any dead space so that reality actually hits us with its full force. Yeah? So I'm pushing myself down. And what you tend to do when you start using intention like this, you find yourself just making little movements in order to fill in dead space that you realize is there. So just let that happen. If you feel yourself wanting to wriggle a little bit, then just allow it to happen. So you're being driven down by yourself. You're like the workman that's using a tool. Only now the tool is your own body. And how effective it is purely a function of the quality of your own intent, your ability to just stay focused. Yeah. And imagine, like, what tends to focus us is necessity. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. So if you had to do this because your life depended upon it, then you'd actually do it very well. Yeah? And so just imagine, you know, just imagine that we have to become good actors. We have to be able to create scenarios. People think it's childish, you know, because you're pretending someone's behind you, pushing you down, and obviously they're not. But we're just trying to whip ourselves up into a pitch of spirit and energy, so we can actually do some decent work. Yeah. So I'm being driven down through the chair. The chair is, I can almost feel. So the more these sitting bones press down into the chair, the more the chair is erupting up my spine. Well, it's not really the chair, it's the ground, of course. Yeah. So it's a bit, you know, those movies about, you know, finding oil in Texas. You know, they drill and drill and drill, and then one day they hit an oil reserve, and then it just shoots out of the ground. You just get this spout of black. It's just firing up for days and days. Yeah. So that's because it's under such immense pressure underground, that as soon as it's reached and the pressure is released, it just shoots up. So what we're doing is just creating pressure. We're creating a downward pressure with our own focused mind in order to force something to come up, because it won't happen on its own. This is one of the beautiful things of John's. You know, he always used to say, if you're not for me, you're against me. Yeah? And he had that beautiful saying, the feast is forwards. Yeah? So he used to say, if you're not going forwards, then you're going backwards, because there's no standing still. Yeah? And so if we're just sitting still waiting for it to happen, it just won't. We have to make it happen. Yeah? So this is a good aspect of force. We're, of course, you know, we're good Tai Chi students, so we're used to not using force. So if we do use force, we're not going to overdo it. We don't have to worry about that. And now just bring the hands in. So when you have this intention flowing through you, it just changes everything in the body. It just feels very different. So in Aikido, they have a saying, flesh on the underside. So when the arms are like this, it feels like the flesh is melting and coming underneath, hanging off like an old person. But when you're intending through yourself, that's there, that really is there, it aches. The arm aches, it's like your bones ache because of this pull down through you. So just think in terms of making it happen. Yeah? If you just relax and just let it happen, you'll be there all lifetime. Yeah? So in order to break through, you have to call on some sort of superhuman strength inside yourself. And normally, it's exactly the same energy that would actually become manifest if you are under great stress. Yeah? So stress is great. What's bad is that we don't know how to convert mental stress into physical stress. And most people now, the stresses they're under are mental. And because we've lost touch with our bodies, we don't know how to express that physically. So these stresses are purely physical. So if you're under great physical stress or even great mental stress, but you know how to channel it, then it will just force you to get it right. Yeah? Okay, now just feel the down chair. So feel this point here. And now just tighten it, pull it in, and then just relax. Yeah. Okay, now we want to tighten it in a spasm, like a burst. So you just pull it in really quickly and just make a little sound. Yeah, so yeah. So it's like you just, the pull here is so quick, it just forces a sound and air out of you. Yeah, so and then you just relax until it's completely relaxed again, and then again. So don't worry about making silly sounds, because no one can hear you. No one can hear you scream. So again, you're pulling in. You want that real spirited snap, tightening in here, and then you release it out slowly. And then again, you pull it in. So you're pulling your belly in, but really, really quick. Okay? And everything is tightening. So your buttocks are tightening, your anus is tightening, your pelvis is being pulled down. Yeah? So it's just a spasm, it's like a contraction. If you've had children, then you'll know what I mean. So just pull. So you pull in, and then you relax out. And again, pull in, and relax out. Pull in, and relax out. So tighten, and relax. Tighten, and relax. Now the difficulty with this is that as soon as we get into a groove, into a rut of repetition, then we lose the spirit. Yeah? So as soon as something becomes predictable, the spirit tends to dissipate, and so does the mind. So we have to make sure that each contraction starts from zero. Yeah? So I pull it in, and then I just relax it back out. And now I have to try and forget what I've just done, and then I can start again. So I pull it in. That's it, it's great. Yeah? You almost imagine you're doing so hard, you actually bounce off the chair. So like when we were jumping before, it's exactly the same thing. Yeah? So pulling in, and you almost spring off the chair, and then relax, and again. And just really use this hand to test, because it's difficult to know often when you get it right. Yeah? Because we're so used to looking at the wrong cues. Yeah? So we tend to judge how well we're doing by how good we are feeling. But you only need to be a performer of any sort to know that how you feel about your performance has nothing to do with how well you've done. Yeah? If anything, when you feel good about yourself doing something, that's when you've slipped into your ego and you've lost all the spirit. So just feel the belly and yeah? And when you do a good one and you really feel it springy here, it takes you by surprise. You're as surprised as anyone else. Yeah? So you pull in, and then you just relax. And again, pulling in, and relax. Pulling in, relax. Pulling in. Yeah, so you have to take yourself by surprise, spring it on yourself. And out, and again. Yeah. So imagine the teacher was there in the room, and the instruction was, okay, do this contraction when I clap my hands. Yeah. And so everyone's waiting expectantly for this clap, and then when the clap comes, there's a whole series of tightenings, all at different times, obviously. But it's like there's some cue that you're responding to, but it's not coming from you. It's from outside somewhere. So again, yeah. So it's those when you spring it on yourself. Yeah. That's when you'll do it well. That's when you will get maximum energy coming in. Yeah. Again, pull. And out. And pull. That's it. That's great. Yeah. Again, pull. That's it. And now just relax it. Yeah? So now let's just come back to here. And so what we're going to do, we're going to build up what in Kundalini Yoga they call the breath of fire. So what it is like a fast breathing that just intensifies your energy and your spirit. That they do loads of it in Kundalini Yoga. And I mean, a lot of people poo-poo Kundalini Yoga because they wear turbans and they've got beards. But when you meet them, they've got something, you know, which the average Buddhist doesn't have, yeah. And so the idea when you do the breathing is you just do a whole series of these contractions from the belly, and each one you use as an out breath. Yeah? So when I contract, I breathe out through the nose. So it's all happening through the nose, out and in through the nose. So you're just doing a series of contractions like this with the belly, and using each one to burst some breath out of the nose. And you don't worry about the in-breath, because the in-breath will happen naturally in between the out-breaths. Yeah? So let's just try. So just feel the belly. So we'll just try with the hands on the belly again. And just concentrate more now on the breathing rather than the intensity here. The important thing is that the effort comes from here, not from here. Yeah? So it's your belly squeezing that pushes the air out. Yeah? So just through the nose, so the mouth is closed. It's like you're trying to blow your nose. You have to make sure you have blown your nose beforehand, otherwise snot flies everywhere. We're doing this. So it's quite good fun. So let's try. So breathing out. So that's it. Oh, gets you quite emotional. So let's try again. So just from the nose, you just push the air out. So, and then just pause it. That's it. And again, so. And just pause it. So just do a few. Yeah? So maybe 5. Yeah? So we'll just do 5 each time, then we'll pause a little bit, because it's quite intense. Yeah? So let's do 5. So. And then just pause. Yeah? So the idea is you slowly sort of hyperventilate. You become a little bit tingly and fired up. So you're meant to do this for 11 minutes without a break. Yeah? So obviously you have to learn to pace yourself in time. Yeah? So we're doing it really intense now just to make sure we have the technique right. Yeah? So let's try 5 more bursts from the belly. Yeah? So, and then just pause. So let everything just settle. And then again another 5. And pause. And again. Pause. And again. And now, forget this, but just make sure it's there, but now just use both hands, yeah? So, and relax. Relax. Again. And relax. Okay, and now let's just try and keep it going for a minute. It's quite a long time, a minute. So you can't do it quite so intensely. Okay? So let's just, let's just try. I'll keep my eye on the clock. Okay. So let's start now. So, and in. So that was a minute. Feels a long time when you're doing something like that. And now just feel how you feel. Just register how you feel. It's a bit like we're simulating flight for one's life. So imagine you have to run for your life. You're being chased and you have to really flee. And so when you finish, when you finally escape, you'd be so relieved, but also you'd be in a state of terror. So that's how this should feel a little bit. But now you'll really feel this. Yeah? So despite that feeling of real sort of excitability and anxiety, in the middle of that, there's this core that's just reliable. So that is that gets you through it. It's your own center. It's not mummy and daddy. It's not society. It's not your class, your race, all that shit. It's just you and your center. You and your death. Okay. Now, what we want to just work on now, just for a few minutes, is that wrestling energy. Yeah? So imagine you're going to wrestle. So in the martial arts, there's two types of fighting. There's what they call boxing, which Tai Chi is part of, which is all about extending your energy out in order to get your energy into another person, this destructive, explosive energy. Yeah? So Western boxing, Kung Fu, all of that, it's all boxing. But then the other one is wrestling, where you're not trying to fire the person away from you, you're trying to pull them in and crush them. Yeah? You're trying to hold them in a hug and just squeeze all the breath and life out of them. Yeah? Or you're trying to break bones or crack the neck or whatever. Yeah? So Tai Chi has an element of that because basically yielding is a little bit like wrestling. So when you're yielding, you're drawing the other person's energy in, but in Tai Chi, you're drawing their energy in order to then get them close enough and off balance enough to be able to box. Yeah? So Tai Chi, if you like, is a combination of the two. And the way it combines is, in a sense, I mean, I'm simplifying obviously, but in a sense, your lower body becomes a wrestler because you're wrestling with the ground and your upper body is like the boxer. Yeah, so this would be getting your energy up from the ground and into the other person. So somehow you have to wrestle with the ground. You have to use your feet on the ground to draw this energy up in order to then fire it into the upper body. Okay, now let's just feel the feet on the floor. And now just use, let's just move from leg to leg to start with this. So feel, become aware of the push in the opposite direction. Yeah, so become aware of Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if I want my body to flow that way, I have to push the ground this way. If I want my body to flow this way, I have to push there. So just become aware of the feet on the ground. That's the most important part. And the more aware you become of them, the more you'll actually sink down. So imagine you had to push your car. So if your car broke down and you had to push it, you wouldn't be able to do that because nothing would happen. Yeah? You'd have to use your legs. So you'd get down and you drive from your straightening legs. Yeah? So everything that we're doing now in these classes, it's as though we're it's as though we're much, much heavier than we really are. So I need this leg to actually drive my body back. I can't just do this anymore, yeah? Because this is the wrong sort of mind. This is a shitless mind. Yeah? So I'm wanting to get my body into this action. So I'm through and I push. And I push. Yeah? So you're getting down into the leg and using the leg. And again, just imagine someone behind you is pressing down into your shoulders, so you have no choice but to sink down. That's it. It's and you get angry. We're just trying to make ourselves angry. We're trying to rile ourselves, bring up that intensity, that spirit. Because when you're angry, you just do a much better job when you're using your body. Push and push. So again, if you're just tearing yourself, I'm tearing myself into. Okay. Now we want to use exactly that same energy, but now to make a turn. So normally when we turn from here. Yeah, so we just do this, yeah, we're just turning one side and then the other. Now we want to feel as though, imagine someone's behind you and they have you in like a bear hug and you need to get them off. Yeah? Now the easiest way is to actually make a turn. But if you just try turning from here, they're just too strong. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't even wiggle them. Yeah? So what you have to do is just get down into the leg and just use the leg to actually push this hip around. Yeah? And so that's what we're doing now. So we're using the legs. So I'm trying to tear at the ground with my feet and just getting a turn here. But you don't get much of a turn. That doesn't matter. But I'm using the leg. So then it has that what they call tearing silk quality. So imagine you've got a piece of strong fabric and you try and tear it in two. Or like the old bodybuilders, they used to tear a telephone directly in two to show how strong they were. Yeah. So when you're doing this, you're being pressed down, your own intention is driving you down, but you're just using the legs against each other to get this tearing action, in here. Yeah? So you're pushing one round, you're pushing the other. So you're using both legs all the time, otherwise you move side to side too much. You want to stay in the middle and use the legs against each other to force this real grindy turn out of yourself. Yeah? So again, it's coming from the action of the feet on the ground. So 1, 2. Feel the dantian. So this is important because you feel now that your dantian is in two parts. It's got a left and a right. Because basically what's happening is you're pulling with one side, but then extending the other side. And so this is when it starts to get interesting, when you can no longer control it with your mind. You can no longer even see it with your mind. You just have to let it go. And let this animal energy just overtake you and overpower you. All the time intending yourself down. And this energy just comes out of you, it just boils over. And you're not quite sure where it's coming from. Is it the ground that's coming up into me? Is it my own intensity? Am I calling on some allies that I didn't know I had? So it's real. That's it, that's it. And then just bring it back. And now just all back to nice peace and quiet. But underneath, there's now this throb of that something in you that's woken up, that was slumbering when we started. So this is what we work for, just to wake something up. And of course it goes back to sleep again, but each time it's a little bit easier to awaken. And then it stays awake all the time, and it's working in the background on things that you've got no idea about.